Today I will do What If Deku Was One Punch Man Part 3. Last time we left off with the anticlimactic Two Heroes movie where Deku demolished Wolfram and his gang. With that being said, let's begin. After arriving back in Japan, the students rest for a couple of days, then boarding onto the bus to the training camp, stopping in a random location in the middle of a forest, where they are greeted by the wild pussycats, who are going to be observing their training along with the teachers. After introductions are over, Aizawa tells them the training has already begun, as suddenly the ground below them crumbles and they fall off the cliff, then attacked by rock monsters which Deku obliterates in seconds, telling everyone who wants to go with him to grab hold, leaving Bakugo and Shoto, arriving at the camp 10 minutes before the bus with the teachers, shocking the wild pussycats who knew he was strong, but not how strong. After an hour or two, while the others are resting, Bakugo and Shoto arrive, battered and tired, desperately in need of a rest. However, as soon as they arrive, they are told to unload the bus as they were the last ones there, with Bakugo complaining that they would have been second and third if it wasn't for Deku giving them a lift. So why should they do more labor for going the hard route instead of the easy route, while pointing at the students who got a ride with Deku. Hearing this, Aizawa decides that what Bakugo said was correct, so everyone who got a lift from Deku will have to unload the bus for not trying hard enough, irritating the students. Finally, noticing Kota, Deku greets the boy. However, he is met with a swift punch to the scrotum, but due to Deku's speed and reflexes, Deku dodges, switching his position with Bakugo, so Bakugo gets punched instead, then switching back so that Bakugo doesn't attack Kota. Then walking away to help the rest unload the bus as he has nothing else to do. After visiting the rooms where they will be staying for the camp, they go to the dinner hall where they enjoy delicious food provided by the pussycats. After finishing dinner, Class 1A go to the hot springs to relax, where on the male side, Mineta still tries to perv on the girls climbing the walls, getting a deserved slap from Kota falling butt first into Ida's face. However, at the same time, while being thanked for stopping Mineta, Kota gets an accidental peek of the girls shocking him, making him fall, with Deku catching him before anyone else could even register the danger, laying Kota to rest near the pussycats, where he learns of Kota's parents' death by a villain. The next day at 5:30 am, Class 1A are outside the training camp cabin. Aizawa greets his students and tells them that they will undergo reinforcement training and explains that the training camp's purpose is to strengthen their quirks, which will allow Class 1A to obtain their temporary licenses. Aizawa tells Deku to perform the pitch from the quirk apprehension test, but when he throws his pitch, it records at infinity meters, just like at the start of the year. Seeing this, Aizawa realizes his miscalculation, throwing the ball to Bakugo instead, who launches it 785 meters due to training harder to catch up to Deku. Seeing that once again it wasn't a perfect demonstration, he gives the ball to Mineta, who throws the ball 20 meters, which is actually less than at the start of the year. Aizawa then explains that despite training at UA all this time, most of them have only seen a minor increase in power, and a lot less than they were expecting. Aizawa then expands on the purpose of the exercise, telling them that up until now, they have all seen an increase in experience and technique, declaring that now is the time for physical growth, telling the students what they have to individually do in order to develop their quirks, telling Deku that there isn't any growth available for him, so he can either focus on developing technique, or help the rest of the class to develop strength of their own, choosing to do the latter as it will be more entertaining and beneficial, deciding to help Kirishima first, by shooting weaker bullets of air, around 20% one for all air flicks level of strength in rapid succession, forcing Kirishima to strengthen his hardening and hold it for longer. Eventually Class B arrives, seeing the absolute torture they will have to do to grow their quirks, with Tiger asking for someone with a power-type quirk to help him demonstrate how they will teach them, with Deku appearing from the other side of the forest, instantly dodging each of Tiger's blows, then flicking him into a tree, telling him that there is power behind his hits. However, they are too predictable, and easy to dodge if you are faster, so he needs to learn to adapt his fighting style. More in a fight, shocking Tiger and 1B as they thought that the students would be being taught, not the teachers. Later that day after training, the students are provided with ingredients to make dinner, telling them they have to make their own food. However, everyone except Deku is exhausted from training, and is unable to find the motivation to make the food, so Deku and Ida give a speech motivating everyone to make a half-decent curry. After eating, Deku realizes that Kota has wandered off again, and hasn't had anything to eat, so follows him, discovering his secret hideout, where he tells Kota his story about being quirkless, and the struggles that came with it, telling him about his hard work. However, Kota didn't want to hear any of it, telling Deku he doesn't want to be around any wannabe heroes, so Deku leaves a plate of curry, jumping off the mountain, returning to camp. Meanwhile, a few kilometers away from the training camp, Dabi and Imiko along with two masked villains appear. One of the masked villains demands that they attack immediately. However, the other masked villain calms his compatriot as it is not time yet. Dabi tells his fellow villains that they are just sending a warning signal, and will attack when the students are out of energy from training, and not expecting a attack. In the evening of the next day after training, both classes minus those who failed the test, take part in a test of courage. However, 10 minutes into it, a poisonous cloud of purple smoke engulfs the forest, and the trees erupt in blue flames, rapidly surrounding the students, trapping them, forcing them to fight the League of Villains Vanguard Action Squad. In a clearing in the forest near the camp, two villains appear in front of the Pussycats, but before they could attack, Deku knocks them out, telling the Pussycats he knows where Kota is, then taking off, running to the cliff where Kota spends most of his days, to see a hooded figure towering above Kota just about to attack, when Deku appears moving Kota, telling him to run while he deals with Muscular, telling Muscular that he would love to play with him, but due to the circumstances and the fact he just tried to attack a defenseless child, he can't, telling him he will allow him one punch and that's it, and due to what Shigaraki told him about Deku, Muscular uses his full power, erupting in muscle fibers, which condense to form a massive fist, launching towards Deku at 100% of his strength, yelling that after he deals with him, he's going to get that Bakugo person Shigaraki wants, punching Deku directly in the face, with enough force to break the ground under him, but no damage was dealt to Deku, as Deku just moves Muscular's arm from his face with a finger, then punching him in the chest, sending him flying into the cliff face, knocking him clean out, then telling Kota that they have to warn the others, asking Kota to climb on his back, then running to Aizawa, telling him they won't catch on, then dropping of Kota, but before he could leave, Aizawa gives the self-defense order, so Deku runs off again relaying the message, then pinpointing Bakugo's location, coming across a berserk dark shadow, creating light to tame him by spinning sticks at such a speed that they ignite, creating a massive flame, calming dark shadow, then leaving, breaking Moonfish's blade teeth with a single punch, then appearing behind him punching him in the back knocking him out, then telling Bakugo that the villains are after him, so he is going to stay with him to guard him. However, while his guard was lowered, due to rushing in to save Ochako from Toga, forcing her to retreat, Mr. Compress catches Bakugo and giving the retreat, but before he could get far, Deku appears, now angry, flicking both of his arms, then his legs, breaking them, telling him to return catch on or else, while getting ready to flick his side on his ribs, saying that for every second he wastes, he will break a rib, and when they run out he will break his fingers and so on, forcing him to return Bakugo after 5 broken ribs, and a severely bruised ego, then chopping him in the neck, leaving his body to be collected later, escorting Bakugo back to camp, then heading the direction the Mr. Compress was going, seeing Kirigiri preparing for their escape, telling the villains they failed to get Bakugo, telling them they have 1 second to leave or they will be leaving in cuffs, so the villains retreat, only letting them leave after he saw the tracker on the Noma's back, deducing that Momo planted it to learn the location of their base. 15 minutes after the League of Villains attack is over, medical teams arrive to heal the injured students and firefighters extinguish the fires. The Vanguard Action Squad's attack resulted in 26 students receiving injuries, but no one was captured this time. The police force arrive and immediately arrest Muscular, Moonfish and Mustard, Magni, Mr. Compress and Spinner. However, these arrests don't amount to the failure of allowing the students to get injured in an attack by villains again. A day later, there are protests outside of UA. Inside UA, the teachers are having an emergency meeting regarding the League of Villains attack by their Vanguard Action Squad and the effect it has done. The teachers realize that the time of peace has made them soft, which has resulted in the incidents that have transpired. They also acknowledge the League of Villains' threat and their plan to wipe out the current hero society. President Mick points out that there is a traitor amongst them since only the teachers and the Pussycats knew the location of the training camp, although his fact is dismissed by Snipe since trying to find the traitor will breed mistrust and destroy them from the inside. Mr. Principal declares that he trusts his colleagues and is about to say something regarding the traitor issue until All Might's phone rings, causing him to leave the room, where he is invited to join the League of Villain takedown team. The next day in the hospital, all the students have recovered or are nearly done recovering, but do not go to the League of Villain base due to not having a reason to. On the same day as usual, the heroes attack the League of Villains bar and Nomu housing area, subduing all the villains, until they are warped away by All for One, with All Might having his fight with All for One. But when All Might deflates, Deku appears, catching one of All for One's punches with ease, asking All Might if he wants him to take over, then flicking All for One into the air, but All Might declines, telling him to save any bystanders, while he deals with All for One. However, if he thinks he is going to die, he can engage. All Might and All for One have the same fight as usual, with it ending with the United States of Smash to All for One, knocking him out, with everyone celebrating at home. However, out of nowhere a giant missile falls from the sky, blowing up what was left of Kamino, and everything not protected by Deku's body, but luckily Deku had already relocated everyone before the missile landed. When the smoke clears, a massive black ship can be seen in the sky descending, preparing to attack again, shooting another barrage of missiles, which Deku launches back at the ship with the air pressure of a Texas smash. Seeing this, the ship sends out Melzagod, a large alien with pale grey skin, blood-red eyes, with the ability to reshape its body and extend its limbs, to deal with anything still living on the surface of the crater. Seeing the weird-looking alien, Deku doesn't hesitate to blast it away with a Texas smash, seeing that it just regenerated, however noticing that it regenerates around strange marble-looking balls, telling the other pro-heroes to target them, while he deals with the ship, jumping through the ship, where he beats all the members of the Dark Matter Thieves, eventually arriving in Lord Borgosa's throne room, where Borgosa explains his reasoning for attacking, due to searching the whole universe for a powerful challenge, someone worthy to fight him at his true power. He attempts to goad Deku into fighting him, when suddenly, Deku punches him into a pillar and berates him for destroying the city for a stupid reason. Boros, much to Deku's surprise, survives the punch and stands up. With his restraining armor now destroyed, Boros unleashes his true strength and prepares to fight the hero. Boros and Deku engage in an intense fight. Seeing as Deku is unfazed by his attacks, Boros uses Meteoric Burst and continues his assault on him. finishing his attacks with a knee that launches Deku to the moon. But Deku simply jumps back to Earth, hitting Boros with a barrage of punches. However, even after being punched to pieces, he still regenerates, almost immediately. Eager to end the fight, Boros decides to use his final attack, collapsing Star Roaring Cannon, to kill Deku and destroy the planet. Before the blast hits the planet, Deku uses Serious Punch to repel it and critically damage Boros. Defeated and incapable of regenerating from the heavy damage, Boros compliments Deku for the splendid battle. Boros then states that he knew he had no chance of defeating Deku and that the prophecy that he had gambled on was a lie. Boros dies while a victorious Deku leaves the ruins of the spaceship, but not before running through evacuating all the alien crew members, subduing them, as it crashes due to damage it occurred during the fight. The next day later, Deku is praised by the media and is given a provisional hero license for his efforts against All for One and the Dark Matter Thieves. At the end of the week, the teachers go around to the students' houses, recommending the UA dorm system. However, in this story, Inko has no reason to worry, so instantly accepts, with no reason for All Might to beg. Also, on the first day at the dorms, Aizawa has no need to scold everyone as only Deku went there and he didn't have a quirk, so technically didn't break any laws. They then do their room tours and nothing changes about that, so I'm going to skip that. The next day, everyone practices for the provisional hero license exam, working on their special moves, with some of the class already having their special moves due to training with Deku in his spare time or extra training to beat Deku, like Bakugo, Shoto, and Kirishima. Finally, the day of the exam arrives, but I don't see a point to cover it, so everyone who passes in the original also passes in this. Also, when they arrive back at the dorms, Bakugo has no reason to challenge Deku to a fight as he doesn't have one for all, and the fact he wasn't kidnapped meaning he isn't the reason for All Might's retirement. However, it could be argued that he will still challenge him due to Deku being All Might's successor and his shattering superiority complex, and it's more interesting, so why not? While the rest of Class 1AM are asleep, Bakugo takes Deku to Ground Beta, the site of the battle trial where he and Deku fought for the first time. Bakugo remembers the time where Deku was a weak, quirkless good-for-nothing, and then suddenly out of thin air he manifested strength beyond All Might without a quirk, and by some miracle he was accepted into UA to add salt to the injury. Eventually Deku received his provisional hero license ahead of the whole class and took on an alien invasion, while he was in bed and failed the exam. Deku tells Bakugo that he received his provisional hero license for performing well, but Bakugo orders him to keep quiet and let him finish. Ever since the Kamino incident, he has been putting the pieces together and has been thinking about it the whole time. Bakugo states that originally he thought that Deku received his quirk from All Might after having witnessed All for One's ability to steal quirks and bestow them on to others, as well as figuring out that All Might is an acquaintance of All for One. Bakugo hypothesized that All Might also has some form of quirk transference because he has become weaker ever since coming to Udota and meeting with Izuku. However, if Deku's strength was a quirk, Eraserhead would be able to erase it, so it couldn't be. Knowing this just made him more mad, as if All Might had given him his quirk, his strength would be reasonable. However, that's not how it happened. He is weaker than Deku, a quirkless person, who used to be able to squash in an instant, and to make matters worse, no matter how hard he trains, he can never reach a single percentage of his power. Deku tells Bakugo that that's not true. He has improved immensely at UA, and if he keeps working he will reach his goals, reciting an All Might quote. If you feel yourself hitting up against your limit, remember for what cause you clench your fists, remember why you started down this path, and let that memory carry you beyond your limit. Plus Ultra. Still angry and upset, Bakugo challenges Deku to a fight to prove his dominance, as he charges at Deku, igniting a massive explosion, followed by a barrage of AP machine gun blasts. But Deku simply dodges them, not wanting to fight, asking Bakugo to hold off the fight until training. However, Bakugo tells Deku that they cannot fight in class because the teacher will get in the way, then creating a massive explosion, creating a smoke screen, allowing Bakugo to appear behind and off-guard Deku. Collecting up all of his nitro sweat for a massive explosion, gathering it in a spiraling pillar, then releasing it all at once point blank into Deku's back, sending him flying to the other side of the training ground into a pile of rubble. Then charging at Deku, yelling, "How do you like that? It's a new technique called cluster, I developed from gruesome training and my immense hate for you and your power. However, I know it didn't even lay a scratch on you, so you might as well stop faking and fight me." Hearing this, Deku realizes that Bakugo won't stop unless he actually fights him, so gets in up, brushing dust and rubble of his shoulders, then getting in a fighting stance ready to counter Bakugo's next strike. Bakugo launches himself into the air with an explosion and propels himself to the ground with another explosion to perform a spinning kick of sorts, but Deku easily blocks it, catching Bakugo's leg, spinning him around, then throwing him into the air. However, Bakugo stops himself using another cluster explosion, then using a howitzer impact, firing an explosion which propels himself in a circular motion towards Deku, firing a massive cluster explosion after colliding with Deku's arm, destroying half the building behind Deku, however only moving Deku back an inch, then being grabbed in the face, and slammed into the ground, firing as many full power explosions as he could to get Deku off. However, it doesn't work, as Deku punches Bakugo in the stomach. However, Bakugo so's not quit, firing a point-blank stun grenade, disorientating Deku enough for Baku to land some more hits in before making some distance, firing his AP shot auto cannon. However, Deku closes the distance in an instant, tanking the shots, appearing behind Bakugo, then pulling his arms behind his back, palms facing away from his body, restraining him, ending the fight. Bakugo knew the outcome before the battle, however it's still irritating to lose to Deku, but it did let him release some steam and calm down a bit and become slightly closer to Deku. Suddenly All Might arrives, telling them to break up the fight, with Deku releasing Bakugo. Having heard everything, Katsuki decides that he is going to rise higher than Izuku as a hero. Izuku accepts Katsuki's challenge and will rise higher than him. As Izuku and Katsuki argue about them rising higher than one another, Toshinori is happy to see that Izuku and Katsuki have become proper, true rivals. The secret of One for All has become a secret amongst Toshinori, Lemillion, Izuku, and Katsuki. Afterwards, Aizawa helps bandage Katsuki's wounds and then proceeds to wrap them up using capturing weapon as punishment for fighting, placing them under house arrest, then sending them to bed. Okay guys, this is the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Please consider leaving a like and subscribing as it really helps. Sorry for not uploading recently, but I have exams and stuff coming up, so uploading may be a bit rare for the next couple of months. However, I will upload when I can, so thank you for waiting. With all that being said, this is Demonic Saiyan signing out. Bye.